So this is your upgrade to your Winnebago Itasca. First thing you do is disconnect these hoses and just put them in the back. Make sure they can still eject air. That'll warm this area in case anything should ever freeze. You forget to winterize it properly. It's getting close, you know. You need a little extra warm air back here. It'll also allow warm air from the cabin to come into here, into the basement, so this doesn't become a cold air trap. Other thing you want to do is spray foam insulate your hot water heater. Now that has its jacket removed because I'm getting ready to get rid of that hot water heater. But if you still use it, there, I've bypassed the heating lines because I'm not going to use it anymore. The next thing I did was got an accumulator. They're about 40 bucks online. And I used the existing plumbing and plumbed it into the cold water line. I capped off the hot water line marked with the tape. Just a brass cap, same threads. And from the water tank, I removed the existing nipple that had a compression fitting on the end for this old 3/8 black tubing. And I pulled out the strainer, which was a piece of crap. And so there's 1/2-inch pipe, and that's bolted down with a strap to a garden stake. Bought about 12 garden stakes from the hardware store. I just had them laying around. So there's 1 1/4-inch screws, or 1 1/2-inch screws, self-tapping, going into the floor, and there's 2 shorter screws holding the strap on. Then you get yourself a universal joint. Now you could use a plastic universal joint like I used here, but I needed a little extra room around the outside, and I was afraid that that big cylinder wasn't going to fit. That way you can stop at the universal joint, make sure this fitting's okay, and then proceed. Then you use a little pipe nipple. I happen to have one with a hex. Then you use what's called an elbow T. It's a riser up to here. You used another nipple there, a metal one. Then I went to plastic. That's a pretty durable union, so that's a good place to switch to plastic. Then I have an elbow here, a Schedule 40 elbow, threaded into the Shurflo filter, so that I bought for about 12 bucks. Then there's a plastic nipple, and then there's some 1/2-inch female to 1/2-inch female hookup lines you can get almost anywhere. These came from the recycled store, so did a lot of these other parts. Down here, this is a drain for the tank. You got 1/2-inch, that's about a 5.5 to 6-inch nipple. Then you've got a shut-off valve, brass. Again, that's all recycled. Then I found these on discount at Lowe's, these 1/2-inch to 1/2-inch PEX. So I thought I was going to do this with PEX, but PEX is too stiff to work with for the bends I needed to make. So, and these were 2 bucks a piece, these hookup lines, so that was way easier. And they're more flexible. They're less likely to transmit vibration from the pump to the rest of the plumbing. Then there's a 1/2-inch elbow, and that goes down to about a 2.5-foot tube that just drops straight down through the floor. There was an existing hole there. You can see I spray foamed it last winter because there was nothing in the hole. And then that end of that tube extends down just beyond the hot water tank, and the strap that holds the hot water tank up to it adjacent, it's zip tied to that. Okay, then you got the outlet of the pump here going around to the accumulator. The accumulator is on the stake there. The stake is screwed in 2 places, here and over here. There's also another screwed into this wood. Make sure you pre-drill this old wood because you'll split it because it's so dry if you don't. And I reused a 1/2-inch elbow to compression fitting. Reused one of the lines that was back here to hook it up to the cold water drain. I also pulled these drains out, and the tubes that they were hooked up to for drainage were too short, so I want to extend those eventually, but I've got stainless steel pipe clamps on there now instead of those press-on clamps that were in use. So there's that. And that's how you do it. It's real quiet when you run it. Pump makes hardly any noise. It's not screwed down to the floorboards right now. I might not get around to that. Just leave it like it is. I've got this line disconnected here because I ran out of pipe tape, so that's leaking a little bit there, and I've got to unscrew it and rescrew it. But everything else works fine. This blower is just drying off this area because I didn't have the tank emptied initially. Now you can put a siphon tube down here, just a long 3/8 hose, and just wait forever, and eventually you can siphon out all the stuff that's in the tank. But here I've got the tank filled to just below the level of this filter, so that I could work on the plumbing and test it. But while I worked on the plumbing, it wasn't going to have water coming out of the inlet strainer. And see, this inlet strainer, you can just drop it and clean it. You don't even have to empty the whole tank before you do it, like the old crappy inlet strainer, as you can see, was broken inside the tank and just a mess. So that's how you upgrade your Winnebago on Costco. I'll give you an overview here. What that all looks like.